If you have anything to do with automotive security, the Car Hacker's Handbook is the book to read.
Hey Matt, I heard you read a book recently about car hacking.
Yeah, so this is a fantastic book. The Car Hacker's Handbook by Craig Smith. It is so full of information. Like I went from knowing next to nothing about car computing to, well, I'd have to go back and refer to a lot of it, but there's so much information here. It's kind of an interesting story. This book came out as a free PDF from opengarages.org a couple years back, and then No Starch decided to print a copy of it. And it's great. It walks you through a bunch of the technologies that make up modern cars, things like the CAN bus, which is a network that runs through most cars, talking about entertainment systems, cellular interfaces, the wireless sensors that tell you what your tire pressure is, a whole bunch of different stuff. You know, modern cars are more and more like a computer that happens to have an engine and wheels. And so there's entertainment systems built into them. There's the immobilizers that are used to make sure that no one can, hotwire your cars. Apparently hot wiring is like a dead mechanism for breaking into cars because of the stuff that's been built in. But they go through the different types of immobilizers and the key systems. It's incredible just how much information is in this book. And a lot of it, if you've ever done like pen testing, it's written sort of like a pen tester's approach to car security and car computing. Sort of saying, okay, let's map out what are our attack surfaces, what can we do with this, how can we use it to pivot to another place. It's really interesting, teaches kind of methodology, but also a lot of technology. There's one section towards the end that I was actually really impressed with. And they were talking about vehicle-to-vehicle communications and vehicle to like road sensor communications. So, if cars are driving nearby each other, they can tell each other certain things about the road conditions or about, basically how they would communicate. But they've built in this interesting sort of anonymous system. So like the whole point is cars can share information about themselves in the road without uniquely identifying themselves. So if someone wanted to track a car based on this wireless communication, it would be very difficult. It's very complex, and I think it's mostly at this point like a proposed standard, but someone has clearly been thinking about security when they designed this. I was wowed. So for me, this book is really an essential book for anybody who's going to get into designing computing systems for cars or ones that interact with cars.
So I think it's useful because I think it creates awareness that this is an issue. Because if people don't realize that this is an issue, then no one's going to really pay attention to it. And then the hackers are going to be able to exploit it without any problems.
If you're going to be hooking up something digital to something that is several tons and moves very fast and you don't want to be on the receiving end of, you should probably understand how to secure it. And this book shows you, this is the stuff you would do to test these sorts of systems before they even get out into production.
Would you say that the previous systems, the previous generations of this, the designers were favored features over security?
I think that's probably the case because in previous generations, the whole concept of car security was limited to, can someone steal your car, break the window, hotwire the car, or maybe pick the lock. Now the attack surfaces are so much different. You've got Bluetooth and cellular and Wi-Fi in some cases, and then other wireless systems. Like the sensors that read the tire pressure monitors are an interface to a car computer. The things you hadn't thought of before.
All the different computing components within a car, now is it per manufacturer, or are they all kind of standardized across the board? So when someone reads this book, it doesn't really matter what sort of car that they have, it's just kind of across the board?
Well, that's the thing. Certain terminology and technologies apply to a lot of different cars, but things like the messages on the CAN bus vary wildly between manufacturers. But I think understanding the basics and then referring back to the book for the technologies that you encounter in the field is the right approach. Maybe treat it like certain chapters are more like a reference than they are a cookbook. So it's an eye-opener if you don't know too much about the security of cars, but it's also a really good resource if you want to get into security testing for vehicles.